If you have no energy left after your 9 to 5, you are not weak. You're operating in a system that's designed to drain you. Hello, I'm Asasa. I was an operations planning lead at Apple for 4 years, and then I joined TikTok as a global program manager, basically corporate slave work in tech. My main quest has been my 9 to 5, more like 99, but I also wanted to do some side quests and pursue my own personal projects, like learning a new language and starting my own online business. But I was always so tired after work, I couldn't do anything. So doom scrolling became the default status. The existing solutions on YouTube didn't really work for me. I have ADHD, which is ADHD and autism, so I'm just constantly overwhelmed by their methods, and I beat myself up when I couldn't keep up. So I'm gonna share with you a solution that works for neurodivergent brains. If you also have ADHD or autism, try your best to watch till the end. And if it really doesn't work for you, let me know in the comments. There's definitely a way forward. Part 1. The mental residue phenomenon. What nobody tells us about knowledge work in corporate is that it leaves a mental residue. These are thoughts, worries, and cognitive patterns that stick with you long after you have logged off. Unlike physical labor where you can see and feel your work, knowledge work creates invisible fatigue that's harder to recognize and address. There are 4 main types of mental residue that are likely sabotaging your after-work energy. The first one is decision residue. Each decision at work, no matter how small, uses glucose and depletes your brain's decision-making capacity. It's called decision fatigue. By evening, this mental muscle is exhausted, which is why you might find yourself ordering the same food or scrolling mindlessly instead of deciding what to work on for your side project. The second one is meeting residue. The Zoom calls and stakeholder meetings don't just take time, they create ongoing social processing. Did I say the right thing in that meeting? What does my boss mean by that? Your brain is designed to analyze social interactions for survival reasons. That's why an awkward moment from a morning's meeting might still be playing at 8 p.m., stealing the mental energy you could use elsewhere. The next one is problem-solving residue. Knowledge work pays you to solve problems, but your brain doesn't have a off switch for this function at 5 p.m., and you probably experience solving a work problem while showering or driving. That's actually your brain continuing to work in the background, using your mental resources. This problem-solving residue is particularly draining because it operates semi-consciously, making you feel mentally busy even though you're supposedly relaxing. The last one is context switching penalty. The average knowledge worker switches tasks every 3 minutes. Each switch costs you mental energy. By end of the day, you've paid this tax hundreds of times. And here's where it gets extra challenging. If you have ADHD or autism, this residue hits you even harder because of natural challenges with task switching. Your brain might require more energy to switch from work mode to personal project mode. The result is that feeling of being mentally stuck in work mode long after you have physically stopped working. At work, we switch between checking messages, emails, documents, answering someone's questions, and then meetings. Each switch requires your brain to disengage from the current task, store relevant information, recall details about the new task, and then refocus attention. This creates what neuroscientists call the switching costs, like a tax on your focus. Studies show that it can take up to 23 minutes to fully refocus after a switch. So if you're switching all day, you're paying this focus tax hundreds of times. Part 2. Why common advice fails. Now you might be thinking, I've tried everything to fix this. I know, because I did too. Let's talk about how the common productivity advice fail. Just wake up earlier. This ignores your brain's natural energy rhythms and sleep needs. If your sleep chronotype is not an early bird by nature, it won't work for you. When I was at Apple, I tried to wake up at 5 a.m. every day for 1 year. So I was awake, but I was so tired I couldn't do anything productive anyway. Use your willpower. Willpower is a finite resource that's already depleted by your workday. This advice completely falls apart when executive dysfunction is the issue, which is very common if you have ADHD. Time block your side hustles. I would dutifully block 7 to 9 p.m. for my personal projects. Then I would stare blankly at my computer, too mentally drained to start. Time blocking doesn't address the mental transition needed. Exercise for energy. While exercise helps some people, suddenly trying to start an intense workout routine when you're already mentally exhausted can feel impossible. I would often skip the gym because I was too mentally tired to go, which creates a vicious cycle. Because at this moment, the gap is too big to cross. You will fall. And I spent years trying these approaches and beating myself up when they didn't work. At some points, I believed that I just wasn't cut out for this. I have both ADHD and autism, so I'm defective, and this is my limit. But the truth is that I didn't realize how big my mental residue was, and how to create a proper transition to clear the residue from a workday. Until you do that, no amount of productivity hacks will stick. Part 3, the reset ritual. So after years of trial and error, I created my own reset ritual. You might already have your own, but this one is designed specifically for ADHD brains. There are 5 steps in my process. Okay, step 1 is the night before. The reset begins before your workday starts. Before I go to sleep, I will set one and only one priority task that I'm going to do tomorrow for my personal project. And I will write that down clearly in terms of action item. For example, after work, I'm going to spend 30 minutes doing blah. You can write it on any tool of your preference. Apple Note, Notion page, a physical notebook, whatever works for you. Then I start to reduce friction by preparing anything I will need tomorrow. For example, I would pack my gym bag and leave it by the door. This step primes your brain to expect the transition later and reduce decision fatigue after work. Step 2, containment strategy. So now you are at work. I would minimize the residue creation during my workday. I would block my work calendar for focused work periods to reduce context switching, basically to prevent people from interrupting your work. Set clear boundaries. My manager has my phone number, so if it's really urgent, she can call me. If everything is urgent, nothing is. And personally, the biggest game changer for me is actually dialing back from 120% to a strategic 80%. Because I have this deep sense of professional responsibility and perfectionism, I felt that I had to give everything to my job, leaving nothing for myself. And that's good work ethics. So I realized I could be professionally excellent without depleting myself completely. This mindset shift is really important. You don't need to drain your batteries at work all the time to be successful. You might get good results in the short term, but it's really not sustainable. Step 3 is the 10-minute brain dump. Immediately after work, I will take 10 minutes to write down every lingering thoughts, worry, idea, issue at work and process them quickly. What needs action tomorrow? What can wait? What's just noise? Once I'm done, I will log out from my work apps and switch to personal mode on my phone, which turns off all work notifications. And I'll physically close my notebook, signaling to my brain that I'm logging off completely. This step is powerful because it addresses the psychological need for closure. Your brain keeps work thoughts active because it doesn't want to forget important information. By externally capturing these thoughts, you give your brain permission to let go. Step 4, physical pattern interrupt. And then I will create a clear physical separation between work and personal time. I will literally exchange my work bag for my gym bag as a symbolic handoff. And then I will do 30 minutes of physical movement, even just a walk, followed by a shower, which creates both physical and psychological cleansing. The science here is fascinating because physical transitions help your brain recognize context changes. That's why walking through the doorways can sometimes make you forget why you entered a room. I've been using this phenomenon to intentionally create a mental shift. Also, during this 30 minutes to 1 hour of physical movement, I'm not thinking about anything. I just allow my body to do autopilot movements when I'm exercising or in the shower. Just let your brain rest. Step number 5, identity reclaiming. The final step is psychological but extremely practical for me. I will visually switch the mode in my mind. So in my mind, it looks like there is a switch between 2 modes. For example, if you're an engineer and your side project is to start your own business, then the identity shift looks something like this. Engineer off, entrepreneur on. Then I will open up the page where I wrote down that one specific action item for today. Remember the one that we wrote the night before? That one. I will just start with 5 minutes on the task. The hardest part is to actually start. Once you have started, the momentum carries you forward and you'll get into the zone. If you have difficulty getting to the zone, I can make a separate video for that. This identity shift is crucial because knowledge work often blurs the line between your professional identity and personal self. This deliberate transition helps your brain access different creative resources that your work role might suppress. Part 4, strategic mediocrity. Now, even with the perfect reset ritual, you'll still have days when you feel drained. This is where most people give up. But for me, when my HP is low, it's better to move slowly than standing still. For example, if my project is to finish a thesis paper, but I'm really tired today, I would write just one really bad sentence and call it a day. It works because it hacks the neurology of task initiation. Research shows breaking tasks into tiny steps can improve follow-through actions by 50% for ADHD brains. So one sentence triggers just enough dopamine to bypass the mental blocks. And studies show that adults with ADHD struggle more with perfectionism than neurotypical peers, which causes higher anxiety. Research also shows that deliberately facing imperfection by using imperfection exposure therapy can actually reduce that anxiety. A terrible first draft can be edited, but a blank page gives you nothing to work with. A level 1 character with basic gears in the dungeon can still gain XP and find loot, but that maxed out character with a legendary equip sitting idle in the menu, nothing will happen. I figured that a visual summary might be easier to understand, so I'm attaching here a flowchart of my model. A demanding 9 to 5 will always take your time, but it doesn't have to hijack your brain. With the right approach, you can reclaim your evenings and weekends for what truly matters to you. And you might have to trial and error to find what works best for you. I tried for 3 years until I was able to sustainably do both. It is very hard, but it's definitely possible to build personal projects alongside your mentally demanding day job. Let me know in the comments if any of these applies to you, and if there's any specific pain point that you're facing or any topics you want me to talk about. I'll try to make them into the video and upload here in this channel. I look forward to your comments, and I'll see you next time. Like!